The first year I dated Jack. Right in front of me, he hugged Anna, who was sitting on his lap, and laughed with someone else. What skin contact disorder? She says she only tolerates me touching her. It's disgusting. I suggested breaking up, and he scoffed. Who else can you be with if you can't stand anyone else touching you but me? Later on, he caught me going weak in the knees from making out with his Uncle Ken. Jack freaked out. Tearfully, he pleaded for us to get back together, calling me by my nickname. I smiled slightly, linking arms with Ken. Jack, based on family hierarchy, you should call me Auntie. In the early hours, I got a text from an unknown number. Jack is at the Blue Harbor Club, room 506. He's drunk. Hurry up. I jumped out of bed immediately, got dressed, and rushed out. Jack has a fear of physical contact. He's extremely averse to being touched by others. The club was crowded, and I worried about him being drunk and having an episode. It was a rainy night, and the downpour made the umbrella useless. When I got to the club, I was already soaked through. The door to the room was ajar. Just as I pushed it open, I overheard Jack and his friends laughing. Someone brought me up. Jack, do you really like that illegitimate girl Linda? You've been together for a year and still haven't dumped her, right? Doesn't she have some weird condition? Something like skin contact disorder. Does she cling to you all the time because of it? Everyone burst into laughter. My heart started to lift with dread. I always knew my status as an illegitimate child wasn't welcome among Jack's friends. But I believed Jack wouldn't let his friends mock me like that. When I had shared about my skin contact disorder with him, he said there was no need to see myself as a freak because of it. It's like needing glasses when you're short-sighted. Then I heard Jack laugh. What skin contact disorder? She says she only tolerates my touch. How gross. I don't have any fear of physical contact. I was just playing her. She totally bought it. When I said it, she'd get so worried that she'd ask for my permission to hug me when she felt sick. There was a roar of laughter from inside. Some even whistled. It was like being plunged into icy water. My hand shook as I gripped the doorknob. My feet felt frozen in place, unable to take another step. All this time, my skin contact disorder was just a joke to Jack. Even I, as a person, was just a big joke to him. His fear of contact was just a lie to avoid getting close to me. The tenderness I thought Jack had for me suddenly collapsed. For the sake of messing with me, he was truly a skilled actor. I laughed derisively and was about to leave, but the door was pulled open from the inside. Suddenly, countless eyes were on me, soaked to the skin. I must have looked a complete mess. Water was dripping from me, and my hair was clinging in strands. Caught off guard, I locked eyes with Jack. There was no guilt or retreat in his gaze. He met my eyes confidently, with a playful look still lingering. A girl in a red dress sat on his lap, without any intention of moving away. I knew her, Anna. She waved her phone at me triumphantly. She was the one who texted me. My mind went blank. So this is what Jack meant by fear of physical contact. Someone saw me and exaggeratedly acted scared. Isn't Linda supposed to have a skin contact disorder? Is she going to cling to each of us? The place filled with laughter. I felt my face burn with embarrassment. I tried to steady my breathing to keep my voice calm. What are you guys doing? Jack's hand remained on Anna's waist. He spoke calmly. Linda, since you've seen it, let's lay it out. Anna is the one I'm going to be engaged to. You didn't think an illegitimate girl with a skin contact disorder like you could marry me, did you? Of course. I can allow you to be my mistress. His words felt like a punch to the chest. A year. We had been together for a whole year. And to him, it seemed like something to toss aside like old clothes. He even used the term mistress to insult me, as if he was doing me a favor. I took a deep breath. No need, Jack. Let's break up. Jack froze. Disbelief flashed across his face, but he quickly relaxed, as if realizing something. Linda, you've grown guts, playing hard to get now, huh? You have a skin contact disorder. I'm the only one you don't reject. Who else will you find after leaving me? Don't you remember how you begged me to hold you, kiss you, like a dog, whenever you needed it? Each of Jack's words sent blood rushing to my head. Describing my episodes like that, it was as if he stripped me naked for everyone to see. I looked towards the person sitting at the head. Legs crossed, he sat lazily on the sofa, his chiseled profile hidden in the shadows. His presence was imposing yet indifferent, relaxed yet commanding. Since I entered the room, he was the only one who hadn't spoken a word. I sneered at Jack. Is that so? Then I walked over to the man, grabbed his collar and leaned in, kissing him. I felt him tremble beneath me. He raised his hand, clearly to push me away, but didn't. How strange. As someone with skin contact disorder, growing up, Jack was indeed the only person I didn't mind touching me. With others, even just linking arms made me uncomfortable, even nauseous. But kissing this man, there was no discomfort. Instead, A pleasant thrill spread throughout my body, an uncontrollable desire to go further with him. After a brief 5-second lip lock, I pulled back, looked into the man's composed gaze, and Jack's shocked eyes. He released Anna, his voice shaking. "Linda, what are you doing?" "That's my uncle." "Uncle?" I was startled. Everyone knows Jack's uncle Ken is incredibly powerful, ruthless, notoriously hard to deal with. He's known for being strictly proper, especially steering clear of women thrown at him. There was even a case where a partner sent a woman to his bed. He cut the partnership off immediately, and the partner ended up blacklisted. Their business tanked soon after. Clearly, I had just stepped all over his boundaries. Anna couldn't wait to gloat. "Linda, you're really fearless, daring to provoke even Jack's uncle. You should worry about whether you can keep living in Boston." Talk about a series of unfortunate events. Who would have thought Jack's uncle looked so young? I actually thought he was one of Jack's buddies. I felt a bit down, pressed my lips together, and was about to apologize to Ken when he grabbed my wrist. His hand was warm, a comforting kind of warmth, making me tremble uncontrollably. I wanted to get closer, even closer. Ken stood up, his eyes flat and emotionless. Despite that, an undeniable aura surrounded him. He spoke with a steady, cool voice. "Jack, you're overstepping today. I'll take her back. You guys continue." With that, he pulled me along to leave. No one saw this coming. Nobody knew why Ken, who usually kept away from women, tolerated a kiss from a stranger without causing a scene. Jack's face darkened, annoyed. Anna, who initially had a gloating smile, now looked like she'd just swallowed a bug. I didn't look back at them. Ken's sleeves were rolled up, revealing defined muscles. His fingers gently rubbed my wrist, sending shivers throughout my body. I swallowed hard. Desperately, I wanted to feel his touch. The moment we got in the car, Ken's lips found mine. I tried pushing him away, but he held my hands above my head. I couldn't help but bite his lip, making it bleed. When the kiss ended, my cheeks were burning red, and I was breathless. Ken caressed my chin. "Why did you push me away? You were enjoying it, weren't you?" My chest heaved as I gasped for air. The rain-soaked clothes clung to me, a reminder of how shameful the day had been. In that cramped space, looking at this impeccably dressed man, I felt tears welling up. People in their circles, be it Jack or Ken, did they just see me as some amusing plaything? Were they just watching for my reaction, and eagerly waiting for abandonment? Ken noticed my eyes were red and sighed softly. He wiped a tear from my face, saying, "Don't cry." I was too impatient. Didn't Jack say you could only stand his touch? Why aren't you repulsed by me? It felt like a secret thrill had been exposed, and I was flustered. I mumbled, "I don't know." Ken suddenly confessed, "Linda, no one really knows, but I have this condition too. You're the only one I've ever met who doesn't repel me." I was stunned, finally understanding what he meant by "you enjoyed it too." No wonder he didn't turn me away earlier. And no wonder he remained so pure all these years, steering clear of women. Seeing my astonished expression, Ken chuckled. "Linda, let's make a pact. Whenever you want a hug or a kiss, just come to me, okay?" His voice was deep as he added, "And if you want more, I'm open to that too." By the time Ken headed back, the rain had stopped. As he entered the room, someone noticed his lip and asked out of concern, "Ken, what happened to your lip?" Looking up, he saw Jack looking at him expectantly. Ken smiled. On the way back, a grumpy cat scratched me. Jack visibly relaxed, but felt that something was off. Why would Ken get scratched when he hates cats? Inside, Jack and his friends continued chatting. One of them asked, "Jack, is it true you're breaking up with Linda after a year? Do you think she'll really let you go?" Jack nonchalantly replied, "She's just throwing a tantrum. With her condition, she can only accept my touch. How will she cope without me? Let her sulk. She'll come crawling back for sure, begging me to take her back as my secret lover." His friends laughed, agreeing with him, praising Jack. One drunk guy added in a rather crude manner, "If you're done with her, mind passing her to me. She's hot and all fragile with her condition, just wondering if she can handle it." Before he finished, Ken stood up, walked over, and grabbed him by the collar, pulling him right off his seat with a punch to the face. Surprised, the guy hit the floor, holding his nose and mouth, feeling searing pain. "Ken," he said, dumbfounded, as Ken glared down, saying, "Watch your mouth." Jack was stunned. He never expected his uncle to hit someone. Just moments ago, he was confident Linda would return to him. Now, uncertainty crept in. Something felt off. After that, Jack and Anna's relationship got a lot of attention. Anna had a Twitter account to flaunt their romance and kept posting pictures of gifts from Jack. Luxury bags one day, sports cars the next, even houses later. Money spent like water just to win smiles. Until one day, Anna posted a picture of a cat, adorable kitty, Betty. "Jack got her for me when we started dating. Helps with my anxiety, thanks to my touch sensitivity. She's family now, Jack knows what she means to me, but now she's become Anna's gift. I thought I couldn't be more hurt by Jack post-breakup, but it felt like needles stabbing my heart. When I called Jack, my hands were trembling. He picked up quickly, with noise in the background, probably at another club. Sensing some regret, "Linda, ready to make up?" he teased. "It's not that, Jack. I saw you gave Betty to Anna. You know how important Betty is to me with my condition. I want her back." It seemed like he had me on speakerphone, because Anna's voice chimed in. "Who asks for gifts back post-breakup, Linda? It's mine now. Jack gave her to me because I liked her. Imagine thinking you can take her back." Their laughter put a lump in my throat. I knew the chances were slim, even before calling. But when I actually faced the result, I couldn't help but tear up. Just as I was about to hang up, I heard someone on the other end say, "I want it. Give it to me." I recognized the voice. It was Ken's. Jack exclaimed, "Uncle, aren't you the one who dislikes cats the most? Why suddenly do you want one? A few days ago, you had a cut on your lip and claimed a cat scratched you. How could you let a cat get to you?" It took me a moment to realize what Jack meant, and I blushed instantly. Ken had turned a kiss where he bit my lip into a cat scratch story. After a while, Ken calmly said, "Actually, it's not for me. I want to give it to your future aunt." I pursed my lips. Future aunt? When did Ken have a girlfriend? What did that last kiss even mean? Was Anna taking my cat not enough? Did Ken want to take it too? My heart suddenly dropped. People around couldn't hold back. "Uncle, when did you get a girlfriend? Why don't you bring her here so we can see?" Jack didn't speak. A thought flashed through his mind, but he found it too unbelievable. How could he think Ken meant Linda as the future aunt? How could that be? He shook his head, mocking himself for being crazy. Jack generously said, "All right then. Since Uncle said so, Anna, give it to him. It's not every day a lifelong bachelor like him falls in love. When he gets married, we'll all be heroes." Anna reluctantly handed the cat over to Ken. Not long after, there was a knock on my door. When I opened the door, there was Ken, holding Betty. I was shocked. "Uncle." Ken's expression shifted several times, looking complicated. "Don't call me like they do. I don't want to be your elder." I stood there, stunned. So I was the future aunt Ken was talking about. That night, I thought something might happen, but Ken just held me on his lap and kissed me over and over again. On my forehead, eyes, nose, and swollen lips, again and again, until my body trembled and went soft. As someone with tactile sensitivity, every cell of mine was screaming. I believed Ken felt the same, but at the end of the night, he just put me down gently and said, "It's not time yet." For a while, I didn't see him. Not long after, it was Jack's grandpa Mark's birthday banquet. Anyone famous in Boston got invited. My family was no exception. The banquet was huge. It was not only to celebrate Mark's birthday. Mark would also announce Jack and Anna's engagement. High-profile marriages in wealthy families always grab attention. I thought my heart might sting, but when I heard the news, my heart barely fluttered. I had dreams before. Dreams of marrying Jack. But now, they were all demolished by him. Luckily, I didn't care anymore. At the banquet, Anna clung to Jack's arm, spreading smiles as they toasted to everyone. Quite the perfect couple they were. Some who knew me kept pointing me out. Wasn't she the illegitimate child who got dumped recently? Jack's family is huge. No way they'd let an illegitimate child in. Anna's much more suitable. He dated her for a year, thought he'd settle down, but she's no different from the others. Annoyed, I went to the balcony for some air. Unexpectedly, Ken was there, leaning against the railing. He smelled lightly of alcohol, his shirt unbuttoned just a bit, tie missing, with his collarbone faintly visible. The usual cold aura was toned down by his relaxed pose, adding a hint of laziness. Days without seeing him, my tightly strung heartstring suddenly snapped. I wanted to touch him, get close to him. I'd even dreamt of it. Almost uncontrollably, I moved towards him. He called me, "Linda, I've been waiting for you. Do I always have to find you to get you to come, huh?" Just as I was about to speak, Ken gently cupped my face and kissed me without hesitation. At that moment of lip contact, we were like fish in water, like someone who had been drowning finally coming up for air. The itch that penetrated deep into the bone was instantly soothed. I missed him, his touch, more than I expected. Not gentle like the last time, this kiss was all passion. By the end, you couldn't tell who initiated and who responded. My legs went weak, almost unable to stand. Ken caught me by the waist, his eyes deep, his voice husky. "Come home with me tonight. Okay." Before I could respond, I caught sight of someone standing in the shadows not far away, unsure how long they'd been there. It was Jack, his expression dark, eyes filled with disdain. He spoke with uncovered mockery. "Linda, at Grandpa's birthday party, messing with some trashy guy." Trashy guy. Ken looked annoyed at being interrupted, turning slowly. "Jack, can't you read the room?" Jack, shocked. "Uncle, How is it you? Linda's my girlfriend, you can't. Ken interrupted. She's no longer your girlfriend, Jack. That night at the club, you two broke up. Now, I am the one pursuing her. Ken clasped my hand tenderly. It felt like fireworks exploded in my mind. I stared at Ken in shock. Even when I was with Jack, he never talked about pursuing me seriously, because in their circle, the biggest taboo was seriousness and falling hard. Jack seemed lost, his face growing darker. Uncle, you don't know, Linda's sick. She has tactile sensitivity, only tolerates my touch. Anyone else makes her nauseous. She can't be with you. Oh, is that so? Just then, Ken pulled me in, kissing me deeply. Completely unexpected, a kiss. After a minute, he let go of me. I was red, eyes misty, gasping for air. Ken, smiling, brushed my lips with his finger and then looked at Jack. See? She didn't resist me. Face it, Jack. You are no longer her only one. Jack turned pale, like the life had been drained from him. He murmured in disbelief, this can't be. He was sure Linda would return, because of that one and only touch she allowed. Turns out, when Uncle mentioned future aunt, it was Linda he meant. His eyes fell darkly on me. In a whole year with Linda, he'd never seen her this swept away. Why hadn't he noticed Linda could look so stunning being kissed breathless, lips wet, eyes dazed? Why had he found tactile sensitivity so disgusting, making up a ridiculous story about touch aversion? He suddenly remembered all the good things about Linda, like that time when she was sick, but still considered his fear of physical contact, just waiting for his approval to be near her. Her eyes were wet, like a puppy. Holding him made her as happy as if she'd found some world treasure. Like when he pretended to be sick, craving seafood porridge from 10 kilometers away. Linda immediately rushed off, covering that distance to bring it back for him. After that, he checked Anna's phone and realized that Linda went to the club only because she was worried he might have an episode after drinking. Jack suddenly felt something he always took for granted was breaking apart inside him, painfully being removed. When he finally noticed that empty space could never be filled again, it was only then that he understood Linda held a unique place in his heart. But all those good things would no longer belong to him. After that day, Ken told me he needed to leave Boston for a week on a business trip. I was surprised to learn that Jack postponed his engagement party with Anna for me. I blocked him on everything. Unable to reach me, he showed up at my school to confront me. Compared to the last time I saw him, he looked much more worn out. There were dark circles under his eyes, and even some stubble on his chin. Linda, I've postponed the engagement with Anna. If you still want to be with me, I'll talk to Grandpa and cancel the marriage. You know it's a high society arrangement. I had no choice. I took a step back. Stop pretending, Jack. You weren't forced. I saw you the day we broke up, and you seemed perfectly content with it. You even gave my cat to Anna. Besides, as you said, I'm sick. And didn't you find my illness disgusting? Why be with me then? Jack fell silent. He remembered saying that. It was him who'd pushed me further away. Trying to take my hand, he said. That was the old me. I'm different now. After we broke up, I realized it was you I truly liked. I shook my head, pulling my hand back. But I don't like you anymore. Hearing this, Jack's eyes turned red, and he raised his voice. Then who do you like? My uncle. Dream on. My uncle will never actually marry you. He's just having fun. It won't last. What will you do when you have an episode? I just found it amusing. Even now, he tried to use my illness against me. I responded coldly, yes, Jack. I have an illness, but it's a fear of skin contact, not can't live without a man syndrome. You really overestimate yourself. I can live just fine without you. Losing my patience, I turned to leave. Jack suddenly grabbed my hand and slapped himself hard across the face. I stood there, stunned. Jack hit himself so hard his head turned, and his face quickly reddened. With his messy hair hanging over his forehead, he looked a bit pitiable as he forced a smile at me. Linda, are you still mad? The force was mutual. My palm felt numb too. For a moment, I felt as if I'd been slapped. I coldly said, if hitting yourself didn't make my hand dirty, I'd be less angry. Hearing this, Jack lowered his gaze and slapped himself again. His arm trembled slightly after the hit, and his cheeks swelled red, with a bit of blood at the corner of his lip. His expression was repentant and sincere, voice low and husky, even with a sob. Linda, I know I was wrong. Please don't leave me. I'll never do it again, I promise. Jack kept apologizing, denying his past actions. Seeing him so downcast, I didn't feel the slightest bit of pity. Those slaps were well deserved. I pursed my lips and turned away. Then I pried his fingers off mine, one by one. Jack, why would you think I'd forgive you after you humiliated me in public and gave my cat to your fiancé? You coming for me now isn't about love. It's just your pride. You're just mad that someone like me, who used to come at your call, can leave you cleanly. You're upset that you've lost control. You've been spoiled all your life, always getting what you wanted, So maybe you don't even know the meaning of loss. You might think my breakup was just a ploy. The more I said, the paler Jack's face got. By the end, he was almost swaying, barely able to stand. Don't come looking for me anymore. There's nothing left between us. After that day, Jack didn't bother me again. He'd always been proud, so coming to find me was already a big step down for him. Without a warm reception, he'd never try again. But I didn't expect that the next day, on my way home from school, a van stopped beside me. The door slid open, and someone quickly grabbed me, one hand over my mouth and the other around my waist, pulling me inside. Before losing consciousness, I unlocked my phone from memory and dialed Ken. When I opened my eyes again, Anna was sitting in front of me with impeccable makeup, holding a teacup, flanked by 4 menacing guys. Seeing me awake, she walked up and lifted my chin with her foot. Linda, I'm not sure what tricks you used to make Jack change his mind, but he defied Mark to call off our engagement. Mark was so mad he beat him up, but he still asks if you visited him. Anna's eyes were suddenly venomous, and she let out a laugh. You said you have a skin contact disorder, right? Well, let's see how you handle those 4 guys behind me. I'll make sure you get up close and personal with them and send the video to Jack. Let's see if he still wants you then. Anna gestured, and the 4 men advanced on me. My skin started twitching with anxiety, a fear and disgust for the impending contact. I tried helplessly to back away, but was tied in place. Just then, the door burst open with a thud. Ken stood in the doorway, his face cold. He stormed in, knocked the 4 men to the floor, and stomped hard on their wrists. The sound of bones breaking mingled with their screams. Freed from my bonds, I threw myself into Ken's arms, and the tears just wouldn't stop. I caught a whiff of the fresh cedar scent on Ken, and the nausea and disgust from the earlier touch finally subsided. Ken cupped my face, gently wiping away my tears. It's okay now, it's all okay. I then noticed Ken's hands were trembling slightly. He was still shaken. Outside, the place was surrounded by police cars. Anna got caught as soon as she ran out. The evidence was solid. Even all the connections her family had couldn't rescue her. When the news broke, Mark was furious. He sent someone to Anna's house to annul Jack and Anna's engagement immediately. When I was invited to Mark's place, Jack was sitting on the couch. His whip marks hadn't healed yet. He looked pale and coughed every now and then. There was a flicker of tension when he saw me and Ken's tightly clasped hands. Ken told me that morning he'd confessed to Mark about wanting to marry me. I expected today's meeting to be one of those where they'd offer me $1 million to leave Ken. To my surprise, Mark sat at the head of the table, his demeanor calm, hardly a hint of anger. He simply inquired about my situation at home, without any tricky questions. After dinner, I noticed a small wound on Ken's forehead. I bit my lip. Did Mark hit you? Mark's temper is notorious. Once he loses it, there's no stopping him. His heavy-handed approach left Jack's body still marked with whip wounds even to this day. Ken laughed. No, I dodged him. He just felt it was inappropriate for a younger generation to be interested in the same person. He added, if you're that concerned, how about a kiss? I really did want to kiss him, but considering we were at house, I held back. Suddenly, I heard a voice behind me, strained. Linda. I stopped in my tracks, turning to see Jack's icy expression. He was walking toward us with a hoarse voice, repeatedly calling my name, Linda. Sensing Ken's mood shift, I corrected Jack. According to rank, you should call me Auntie. Jack froze, as if he couldn't believe I'd say that. Ken let out a soft laugh beside me. I looked at Jack kindly, continuing, is there something you need, nephew? Jack stumbled back a couple of steps, struggling to speak. No, nothing. He had more to say, but the mention of Auntie and nephew felt like knives to his heart, stopping him from speaking further. I kept my tone gentle. Then your uncle and I will be leaving. You're not getting any younger, and since the engagement's off, if you're looking for a girlfriend, I can introduce you to someone. Jack's face turned pale as he forced out through gritted teeth, no need. Thank you, Auntie. Jack thought he originally wanted to tell Linda that his whip wounds were because he wanted to marry her. He wanted to see that familiar pained expression on her face, see her come over worriedly asking if he was in pain, just like she used to when he faked feeling ill during their relationship. No matter how uncomfortable her own skin contact phobia was, or how much she craved his touch, if he said he didn't want her to touch him, she'd hold on to Betty instead, avoiding any contact. But now, he just wanted her touch desperately. So, when he heard Linda would be visiting his house today, even though his back wounds were mostly healed, he played up his pale look and pain to get Linda's attention. But he didn't expect that Linda's eyes truly no longer contained him. When she was with Ken, he could clearly see the blush on her cheeks and ears, and when she tended to Ken's forehead wound, genuine concern on her face. These were expressions she previously reserved for him, yet now, her tenderness and care had nothing to do with him. He even thought about pulling Linda over to look at the wounds on his back, questioning her how a small forehead scar could be more painful than the whip marks all over his back. But he knew he couldn't. He no longer had any claim. The night he learned Linda was with Ken, he drank himself into oblivion. This time, he was genuinely drunk. But no more Linda would brave the storm to pick him up in the middle of the night. His friends called him pitiable, saying people only appreciate what they have once it's gone. He replied, yes, I'm pathetic. Pathetic enough for his girlfriend to become his aunt.